So we started talking about it, but here's the real topic for the day, counselor.
Okay.
Are comedy movies at the theater dead? Now, I know which side I'm taking, and I'll give you the choice. You can go first or second. I don't really, whichever way
You
goes.
go first. Yes or no? What's gonna be,
I'm very sad to say, I think they are. I hope I'm wrong.
Original geek, that's who I am. Rolling 20s with my squad, we got a plan. Marvel heroes on the wall, D&D dice in hand. Original geek, across the land. Level up, never gonna give it up.
Welcome to Original Geek. This is the podcast for anyone who rolled dice in a basement, waited hours to download comic covers on dial-up, and proudly wore that label of geek back when it was a target and not a trend. We're going to dive deep into what it meant to be a geek in the 70s and 80s and how that compares to that mainstream world we live in today. Who are we? We're two of the Gen X survivors who didn't just watch geek culture evolve. We lived through every awkward phase. Hi, I'm Steve Scarfo.
And I'm Jeff Shaw, and we'll be your punchline in today's hilarious romp. Tell them what the topic is today, Steve.
That's right. We're stepping to the left a little bit of geekdom, but we're driving into comedy movies because it definitely fits with that original geek theme of this is stuff from our childhood. The movies, the comedy movies specifically of the 80s and 90s were some of the best, I think, that are out there. I went through a list earlier, but these are movies that made us laugh in the theater with a full room, a room full of people. And now things are changing, man. They're going to be things that are reboots, and and they're becoming streaming series. And
Well, yeah, and one thing all of us geeks had in common was endlessly quoting these movies. Like, I feel like half of what I said in the 80s was a movie or a TV quote. It just, like, that was like our shortcut to humor.
It just, every time you would throw out a quote, it would just completely remind you of the whole movie. And I think we talked about it a couple episodes ago. Whenever you made a mixtape, because we still had reel-to-reel mixtapes, Jeff would always throw in a movie quotes, but they were never like, it was never Braveheart, give me it was, we are the three amigos. And do you want to kiss me on the
volcano?
Yes.
I know he can get the job, but can he do the job?
Do the job.
Yeah, I love that. And I mean, some of the things that we quoted were sometimes geeky, like a little more, nerdy or a deeper dive. Because, and I know this will probably be a whole Monty Python topic on another day, but I kind of feel like when we were growing up that being a Monty Python fan wasn't cool. Like, that was more of a nerdy choice. And that was like NPR, or not NPR, but like public broadcasting would have something like that. So,
super subculture for when we were in high school, especially in the 80s, anything British, again, no cable. The only access to British TV we got was TV 38 and 56 out of Boston. And it was old episodes of Monty Python, Benny Hill, which still, I believe that theme song can make damn near anything funny.
Good point. Good point.
Maybe we'll throw a little clip of it in here too. But yeah, that's all we had. So most people weren't watching, and again, the UHF channels that were, people just, it wasn't regular mainstream TV.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we want to talk a lot about these things because there's something happening right now. We talked about a few days ago in preparation for this episode. A lot of movies that we loved from the 80s and 90s are sort of making a comeback, but they're not coming back in the same way. There are some reboots. There are weird sequels. I just watched Billy Madison not Billy Madison, Happy Gilmore 2. It just came out on Netflix. This is probably a couple weeks after that. But the original movie was almost 30 years ago.
It's
And
just
it's not
mind-blowing.
It's not a reboot. It's not like it's an extension of that same story, which is weird. And it's, was released on Netflix, which most people stream, but it's just a weird thing to see.
Yeah.
And as many movies as because he's put a ton load on Netflix, it was weird to see this one because I remember the original in the theater.
I know it is strange for something like that to not even have an in-theater option for us. But, when I think about it, the two of us used to go to the movies, seemed like every week, and certainly even later on, it went to once a month. And now it's down to a few times a year that the two of us are at a theater together. Like, so, maybe we're partly to blame. I don't know. But yeah, it is different that, some of the best comedies, and I don't know, because I haven't seen Happy Gilmore 2 yet. I am going to. Haven't seen it yet. But it seems like in at least the 2020s, there's not that many movies have come out, comedy movies have come out in the theater. That streaming's had some good stuff.
Yeah.
But the theater, not so much.
Yeah, and I'll say it was a strong showing, right? It was good. It was a good sequel. It had all the nostalgia of the original because there's throwbacks in there, and it had new humor, and it's a Happy Madison production,
they dig
so
up
it's
the
goofy.
corpse of Bob Barker?
They did not, and fight the time agency, the TVA, with Bob Barker.
No, literally like a zombie Bob Barker, because that's one of my favorite parts of Happy Gilmore was Bob Barker kicking his ass.
So they don't, but there's a scene very reminiscent of that.
We have someone else who kicks his ass that you would not expect.
Yes, and there's even more to that relationship that happens that is unexpected. It's one of the things I liked about it because it actually carried the characters forward.
Another thing I loved about the original is just Ben Stiller's character come back, because I actually liked his creepy nurse.
So
good.
Ben Stiller is one of the many, many, many people who come back.
Okay.
And then there's so many cameos in this movie. There's so many people there's one person that showed up that I was looking at him going, I know that face, but it was so out of context. And I can tell you if you want, but I won't spoil it for you or anyone else listening who maybe hasn't seen it yet. But I was like, oh my God, that's him. And then there was another guy who had heard of, but had no idea what he looked like, who was the other cameo. And they were in the same scene together. And I'm like, all right, so they put some effort into it. But, and so if you think about it like this, we got Adam Sandler, arguably one of the biggest comedy stars of the last decade or two. Yes, he's been taking a lot of crap for all the stuff he dumps on Netflix, but he has put a lot of content out. He tries to make the movies. And for a property that sold so well in the theater the first time, he couldn't get a theatrical release. Maybe he didn't want it, but they put it on Netflix. Do you know what I mean? They didn't, and that's sort of, what drove us into today's topic is this idea of what's happening to comedy. Especially as a comedian, there's so many movies that I love. And every time we talk about this topic, I have different movies in quotes floating around in my head that I want to use. And so it makes me kind of sad because I don't feel like there's a lot of original stuff anymore.
Yeah. Well, hey, before we talk about today, I think we need a flashback.
Do we need a...
Yes.
Let's take a trip through time. It's a Geek flashback.
So this was hard. This was hard. I'm not a comedian by accident. I started by watching all these stupid movies growing up, and sad to say, one of the things, sad now, but the first comedy I ever did was after watching Bill Cosby's Himself on HBO. and I recorded it on my VHS tape and watched it 1,000 times. So all of these movies to me were like what caused me to have the sense of humor. All the stuff we talked about in the beginning segment about quoting stuff together. We got together to watch Monty Python movies. But for me, the flashback I want to talk about, I guess it really becomes more about Bill Murray than a specific movie, because I had two movies in my list, Caddyshack and Stripes, and they're on kind of opposite ends of the spectrum, but both like just goofball Bill Murray movies. And also two movies that I quote constantly. It's a cross between Kentucky Bluegrass and California Sensimilla. The best part is you can shoot 9 holes and then get smoked to the bejesus. You know what I'm talking about? That's like one of my favorite lines of all time. And I don't know if like 8 people get that line from Caddyshack. Or in Stripes when they're at the end, and where's your drill sergeant, son? Blown up, sir. You know what I mean? Like Bill Murray, he epitomized early 80s comedies for me.
One of my favorite lines from Stripes, now that you say it, is when they're trying to get in the army and they're asked if they're gay, and they're said, "No, sir, but we're willing to try." And I felt like it's such a great line.
Well, and he and Harold Ramis had the best deadpan deliveries. Like they weren't. I've heard it referred to as winking at the camera. It wasn't like hey, we're making something funny here. They just played it as serious, like, because their characters just didn't give a shit, and they played it perfectly.
Well, and my choice is Airplane for much that reason, because it was so absurd, and yet most of the actors played it serious. Not all of them. There was that one very flamboyant character that was in air traffic control who, like, just was going a little crazy and over the top, and it really worked. It was funny, but most of the characters were delivering the most absurd lines and the most straight, fashion, like serious fashion. And Leslie Nielsen, who becomes, Frank Drebin in the Naked Gun movies, and is just so good at that. And it's just, that movie was so influential. Also, it's the Farrelly brothers, who Something About Mary, and their movies, they said that they wouldn't be making comedy if it wasn't for Airplane and the ZAZ movies, the Abraham Zucker, I think it was the team that made it. And and also Seth MacFarlane, who made the new Naked Gun reboot, same thing, quotes Airplane and Naked Gun and those movies for his style of comedy and being super influential. And you can see it because if you think about Family Guy, it has all these cutaways. Like suddenly there's a giant chicken and he's fighting, and it doesn't make any sense, and they go right back to the topic at hand, and it doesn't matter. Whereas like in Airplane, like the woman is panicking and they're trying to get her under control, and so they just slap her. And then it just keeps getting more and more absurd until you've got guys with machetes, a nun with a gun.
There's a whole line
of people ready to attack this woman. And then, just absurd moment after absurd moment. And delivered, without that wink at the camera, like you're saying, like, this is serious. This is what we're doing. And it works so well.
That same irreverent aside that they put in Airplane, because it was always that line like, "Oh, everybody's at the hospital. The hospital? What is it? Oh, It's a building with patients and doctors." Like,
but that's what they know.
Yeah, so that's what they do in Family Guy. But sometimes they do it with a visual instead of the turn. Like they take the turn into left field, but they do a visual or a quick chicken fight. Or they take it completely out of context. Yeah. Those are great choices. But it also brings us into the overarching idea of our topic for today, which is that reboot. So now the new Naked Gun
Mhm.
with Liam Neeson is going to be hitting the theaters.
Yeah. I'm excited to go see it, actually. It didn't go out on streaming, which is amazing. Because in preparation for this episode, I looked up what are the top movies, comedy movies in the theater for the 2020s. And other than like the Ghostbusters, if you count those, and I know that's got that bridge, right, of kind of adventure comedy. So and that's out there. Like, I feel like the James Gunn movies have that element. You know, Guardians of the Galaxy are, you know, they're hilarious, but they're also action. So I think there's some that, but a pure like comedy movie that's not, you know, action with comedy in it or sci-fi with comedy in it, there's not that much out there. No Hard Feelings with now I can't remember her name. She's Jennifer Lawrence. That came out in the theaters. I didn't see it in the theaters. I should have.
No, and I don't think it did well.
But when I did see it on streaming, I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah.
Like, it would have been a hit in a different time period.
So that's interesting because some of the stuff I was reading fits into what you're talking about, which is it's not pure comedies that they're putting in the theaters. It's those, like, and Jennifer Lawrence movie was maybe a one-off, but I think it still had this aspect of she's such a big star, they thought they could do it.
Yeah.
But there's no comedy that's been produced since like 05, 06 and streaming really started that hasn't had some other element. Like even the Ghostbusters movies, they were a throwback, a nostalgia movie. So there was a nostalgia play. There was a A-list actor play. Most of those have had some other element in them, but
I think
there
a little bit
handful.
later, Bridesmaids was 2011. That was a huge hit.
So it's funny because one of the questions I was going to ask is like, what's one of the last movies, great comedy movies you saw in the theater? That was one of them I thought of. I was thinking of The Hangover,
Yeah.
which I think was 08 or 09.
Yeah.
So it was at that cusp
There's
of
not that
streaming.
many, that's for sure.
Yeah. So streaming didn't really hit till like 05, 07. Like Netflix didn't really start doing streaming until 07, 08. So those movies were like people were learning what streaming was. So I think that might have helped some of those. I mean, because I'll be honest with you, I watched the first Hangover movie and I cried. I laughed so hard I cried. It's the first time I saw Ken Jeong in anything, and he was like hysterical. Now he's kind of a joke, but he just does anything and he's silly. He's fun, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, I get it. But you know what? I think I'm going to take you to court.
You ready to go?
I am.
Are you ready to go
Yes.
to Geek Court?
I'm taking you to court.
The fandom is divided. It's time for Geek Court.
Needs to be louder next time. All right. So we started talking about it, but here's the real topic for the day, counselor.
Okay.
Are comedy movies at the theater dead? Now, I know which side I'm taking, and I'll give you the choice. You can go first or second. I don't really, whichever way
You
goes.
go first. Yes or no? What's going to be,
I am
man?
I'm very sad to say, I think they are. I hope I'm wrong. I'm going to start with a very hopeful, I hope I'm wrong. But everything I've watched in the last couple of days, everything I've looked at, everything I've read, there's like 3 comedies coming out that I'm interested in seeing that are getting direct to theater releases. We talked a little bit about one of them, Paul Rudd and Tim Robinson, called Friendship. It's sort of a subculture movie. It looks very cool, but I still think that's propped up on Tim Robinson's the I Think You Should Leave guy, so he had some heat. Paul Rudd's an A-list. The story is different, but they're definitely, this isn't like a subculture in terms of it's completely unknown, but most of the movies that have come out, I think streaming.
Well, didn't that one
I think
already
streaming-
come out?
Actually, yeah, sorry, you're right. Friendship has been out. This is how bad it is. Okay. I looked up movies from this year that were coming out, and I did. I watched the trailer, and you're right. At the end, it said coming in May, and here it is July.
Yeah.
And I only found it doing research for this show. So this is what I'm talking about. It got a theatrical release. I don't even remember seeing it on a marquee. So I don't even think it was released wide. And this is a couple of guys who are well known for being funny, right? So I don't think there's an appetite in the theater for humor. People are so used to taking their phone and giggling at memes, and I do it too. TikTok for 30 to 45 seconds, YouTube shorts. Everything's we talked about quoting, everything's a meme. I don't think that there's a huge space for comedies in the theater anymore. Prove me wrong, sir. Prove me wrong.
All right. So, unfortunately, your example that you thought was going to be a good one of friendship is actually is proving your point, because those are two that, well, Paul Rudd is definitely a big name. Tim Robinson is a big name in the meme game, which you're talking about how you're watching something for 2 seconds. I Think You Should Leave with Tim Robbins is hilarious. And it's perfect in this meme culture. Each little segment takes about 2 minutes. Like Coffin Flop is just a bunch of guys naked falling out of coffins. And that's the whole concept. Coffin Flop. It's great. And if you've ever seen a meme of a guy in a hot dog suit, with his kind of arms where he's like, what about me? That's Tim Robbins, and that's from his show. And so it's pretty predominant, and it didn't work. You're right. So you might think it's dead, but I have hope. And that hope is in the new Naked Gun movie. I really, fingers crossed that comedy in the theater isn't dead. I do recognize that it's going to require reboots and big properties. Not happy to hear that Happy Gilmore didn't have a theatrical release, because it kind of goes against what I feel could have worked. I felt like they should have done it simultaneously, put it out in the theaters and on Netflix. Netflix has done that before with other their movies, so I felt like they could have done that. But I guess they just didn't want to know. They didn't want the bad press in the event that it didn't work in the theater. But and I recognize that it's tough, because I'm guilty too. To get me away from my nice screen, my comfy couch, all the amenities of being at home, I've got the surround sound, I've got the great HD TV. I don't need to go to the theater for a quality experience. So I may be part of the problem. But
you sound like you're making my point, for the record.
But I don't want that to be the case. So I am going to vote with my dollar, and I'm going to go see Naked Gun. And if Naked Gun doesn't work, because I think Liam Neeson is a fantastic choice for this, and I think Seth MacFarlane's hilarious. So I feel like if this works, then at the very least, big property comedies could still function in the theaters, and that could be the entrance. Maybe people give comedy a chance in the theaters again. So that's my hope. I'm not feeling great about my argument this time. I feel like most of these geek courts, I feel like I'm on the winning side. This one, I'm not feeling quite as strongly about, because it's about hope. We should have done this episode next week after Top Gun was the #1 movie in the country, beating the Fantastic Four,
Naked Gun,
beating Superman.
You said Top Gun.
Did I say Top Gun?
You did. And for the record,
Okay.
You still lost the Star
Naked
Trek,
Gun.
Star Wars thing. I don't care how much money they make. That's, listen, I'm with you on that. I do agree Liam Neeson's probably the best choice, especially for that Leslie Nielsen style quality and he started in comedy movies. There was a ghost movie he was in, where it was very silly and dry, and he's a great dry. I mean, I've seen him do stuff with Ricky Gervais, and he just plays it straight, but he plays those comedy lines. I think he's I love Seth MacFarlane. I hope you are correct. I think even if it does well, it's gonna be an anomaly. And part of that is because of the way things have happened, right? So everything you said about Tim Robinson, he's that quick hit, little screen access to so much humor, and that we can clip it to 2, 3, 10 seconds. I mean, I've seen clips from old movies. My kids have been like playing videos on YouTube Shorts, and I'm like, "How do you guys know that song?" And it's part of a meme someone's brought back, but it's from like an old movie. Or, so I don't want it to be true, but I do. I hope you're right. I hope Naked Gun opens up the doors. I mean, especially as a comedian, I would love to see more comedies. I did see that there are more comedy movies coming, and a lot of them are throwbacks. There are a couple of features that are going to be released. I guess Nate Bargatze is actually releasing a stand-up feature in the theaters, so that'll be interesting to see if that does well. That's another whole area. So I don't know. I fear you're wrong in the court, but I hope you are not. I hope you are correct.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
But now I think it's time to go dumpster diving, or in fact, basement diving.
Dust it off and geek it out, because it's a basement treasure.
They're digging in the wrong place.
All right. I have 4 things listed for this. I'm going to pick one. These are all from 85 and 86. And I was going to go with one, but I think that might be even more well-known. To me, this is a great basement treasure. It's Spies Like Us.
Mm.
It was 1985. Dan Aykroyd, Chevy Chase, and they played the most absurd. It was something that happened in the 80s all the time. They were absurd, like put comedians in a real job and make them do foolish things. And because of those two guys, it was absolutely hysterical. And it's still quotable because I say forever, doctor, 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 doctor. If you've ever
What's
seen
a dick
meme, yes. If you've ever seen the meme of a bunch of people in fur coats calling each other doctor, it's from Spies Like Us.
Yeah. I agree. Spies Like Us is fantastic. And I think it does qualify as a basement treasure. I think a lot of people probably don't know about that aren't Gen X. Please do check that out. And you can find that one in streaming, and you can purchase it through like Amazon or whatever, however you purchase things. What I'm going to share with you is a true treasure of the basement. In fact, you got to keep digging because you cannot find it on any of your streaming services. Well, not like Amazon or Netflix or Paramount Plus. And you cannot purchase it brand new. If you did want a copy, you could get a DVD on Amazon. It costs you $100. But I would save your money. It's not worth $100. As much as I love this movie, it's on YouTube. It's just been posted out there on YouTube. It's hysterical. And it actually is hysterical, but the title is hysterical. It was one of, I mean, I know Abbott and Costello made some spoof horror movies, but I mean, it's one of the first spoof horror movies in the vein of what we're used to in a modern era. It came out after Airplane, and clearly I think the Hudson brothers who made it were trying to do what the Zucker brothers were doing with Airplane. They and I think to a large degree from when I was like 13, 14 years old, I thought they succeeded. I thought it was hilarious. I rewatched it. I do understand now why it didn't maybe stand the test of time as quite as well. I still think it's hilarious. And because it's free, go out there, watch it. Watch Hysterical. The concept of this is it's a spoof horror. People are getting turned into zombies because of this lighthouse keeper that died that was a sea captain. And all of the zombies that are created from the sea captain. They kind of take on some aspects of the sea captain. They have a turtleneck, bushy eyebrows, and they say, "What difference does it make?" And those are the indicators
Captain
that they've
Howdy.
been turned into a zombie. Captain Howdy, yes.
Captain Howdy.
And it's just, if you do like Airplane or love Airplane, Naked Gun, those movies, please give Hysterical a try. It's free, so it's only going to cost you some time. And highly recommend Hysterical.
Yeah.
And who knows? Maybe if enough of us watch it again, they'll reboot that one.
Maybe that'll be the next 40-year sequel.
Hey, and John Larroquette, a young John Larroquette is in it. Maybe one of his first movies. Other than that, Julie Newmar. The only reason I know that,
who played the female lead? I can see her face.
To be honest, I don't think it's anyone that famous. So, but Julie Newmar and John Larroquette would be the biggest
tops.
names. Of course, John Larroquette wasn't a big name then.
No, like you said, probably one of his first movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a great call. Boyd and I used to quote Hysterical constantly. The whole saltpeter conversation was something. Peter is salt. It's salt on the Peter. I don't know what the Peter was, but he's got salt. That's all. And it was just nonsense. But such a great call. But I think it's time to talk about where things are from where they were.
From floppy disks to streaming clicks, it's Geek Evolution.
Oh, I feel like that music should go longer. It doesn't.
Yeah.
So, I think we started talking about it. I know I started mentioning it earlier. The migration of comedies from the big screen to the small screen. We've lamented a little bit over it, but it really is a function of, I think, a couple of things. Huge TVs, plasma screen TVs, 55, even during the gaming computer one we talked about last week, you mentioned my parents had this big TV, but it was a standard def TV. It was crap. It was big, but it didn't look great. Didn't matter. We weren't playing anything great. But now, 4K TVs, 8K TVs, 65, 85, 105-inch TVs, like your screen at home is bigger, better, and sounds better and doesn't cost $30 to get into than a movie theater. So I think part of what happened with us, you talk about we only go a few times a year. Part of that's just we're older. We have weird schedules, but it's also like you want it to be a spectacle.
Yes.
Now, movie theater screens have gotten much bigger too, which is awesome. Sound has gotten better. They've had to keep up because if I can watch it in 4K at home, they better be able to kick my ass in the theater. So part of that is the TVs we have at home. But really streaming, and I'm going to focus on comedies, that's for today, but the streaming platforms, I did look this up because I couldn't remember. Because I remember Netflix when it was discs. I used to do a joke about having the discs and having a stack of discs at home. But it was 05, 07. YouTube launched some video shorts in 05. In 07, Netflix started their watch instantly service. It wasn't widely known or widely used. And even then, you had to watch on a computer. But it wasn't until between 2008 and 2009 when other services, PS3, Roku, came out where they had an app that you could put on your TV. And really, so I think 08, 09 is when this whole thing, and Hulu, I guess, started in 2010. So is Amazon Prime. That's the delimiter. There were movies we talked about that were on that cusp, some a little bit before, maybe even 2011, 2012, that not everybody was adopting. We were probably early adopters in a lot of that stuff, but this evolution of how we can consume, where we consume, made us choose what we wanted to go out for. When it was just as easy to sit down and watch Blazing Saddles, which we didn't even talk about, which is another phenomenal comedy movie that would never even be made today, never mind be a comedy in the theater. There's that, it doesn't exist, and you don't get that. You don't get to have that experience.
So, yeah, I mean, I think, unfortunately, it's just has been a consequence for multiple genres, and certainly comedy is one of them. But as far as an evolution, because I know we've kind of already argued this out in our court. But okay, so let's concede. But I still think the comedy that we're seeing today, and because I know I've heard that argument that you couldn't make Blazing Saddles today, but I think that's okay because there's a lot of comedies that don't that they're good for their time. But I mean, some people say that as if because you can't push the same boundaries. But I would offer up South Park as a great counter to that. That if you've seen the most recent South Park,
Yes,
and it was used an AI generated President Trump naked in the desert with his penis talking, I'm gonna counter and say because that was their most watched film episode in 27 years. So I'm gonna say you can still push some boundaries today in comedy.
so you can, but I think you have to, and I'm going to call it hide behind the medium. South Park is animated. They got away with a lot of stuff in Beavis and Butthead, King of the Hill, Family Guy. All of these shows do dirtier, raunchier, more non-politically correct jokes. And they get away with it, and I'm going to say get away with it. This last one I know had some political ramifications, but we're not a politics show, so. But the reality is, it's we still have to be more careful about how we deliver those messages. I hope that
counterpoint.
all right,
It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, not animated, does push boundaries. There's an episode where they become crackheads just because it helps them get government's subsidies and to subsidize their lives. So they get addicted to crack. And there's another one where they order and eat human flesh. At least they think it is. So they think they're cannibals. I mean, they're pushing some boundaries there. And Always Sunny.
Okay, we do have a little bit in there.
It can be done. I just feel like, and I know, we're is a stand-up comic, but I think the point is the same as Anthony Jeselnik. He contends that you can make those jokes. We just have to make them differently. Like that, basically, some of the things where you might have targeted someone to be cruel or mean doesn't mean you can't use that as a topic. So if there's a topic you want to make a joke about, just don't punch down. That's all he's saying. Like you can, that topic, whatever it might be, trans athletes, whatever it might be, you can still have that in a comedy show and be a topic. Just don't punch down. I feel like
and
you can do it.
Jimmy Carr is another one that does that too. He can talk about and say some of the most horrendous things, but he's always punching up, if you will, to the reverse of what you were talking about.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, it goes back to the jesters of the courts, right? They were the only ones who could punch up. They were never making fun of their other plebes. They were always making fun of the king and his court, and they were the only ones that could get away with it. So
great point.
I do still hold out hope, of course, especially as a comedian. Not that I get crazy and edgy, but I love the fact that people can still, if they know how to do it. You can't just go out and you can't be filthy for the sake of being filthy, right? If you send that out the right way. I think South Park, to your point, that was a message that went out. It went out in their way, and it went out in their format, their medium, but they got to say what they wanted to say, which was more than just making fun of him in this cartoon the way they did, because it actually had, if you actually watch and listen, there's more to the message than just kind of poking at him.
Yeah.
And that was great. But the idea of, what's happening, it's just become all 95% of good comedy, if it's there. It's just It's on the small screen. It's on your computer. It's on your phone.
But it is there. I think
it's there.
That's what we got to go with for the positive message. There's plenty of great comedy. It is on the small screen. But maybe we have a message for the new generation.
I think we might.
Your kids don't know how good you've got it.
Yeah. And that is a great point, because one of the things, I think we talked a little bit about it in the early parts, right, is if you've been in a movie, last year, 2 years ago, we talked about it during the comic book episode, the Spider-Man movie, right? I remember being in the theater full of people watching that movie and feeling the energy from the room, right? And we've, even the last couple of Marvel movies we've seen and fantasy and stuff we've seen together, they've been smaller crowds. That's the last one I remember being there, like in a room full and people like cheering and laughing, and the scene where all the Spider-Man are like, that used to happen during comedies. Used to be in a room full of people and enjoying, oddly, Shrek, the first Shrek. I remember being in a theater for the very first Shrek. We went under the guise, I think you were with me. Did you come with me to that? We took my little nephew Thatcher. He was a tiny kid. He's going to get mad if he hears this. He was a little kid at the time. A bunch of us, there was like 7 adult men and this one kid, because we all wanted to go see this, what we thought of as a kid's movie. And it really wasn't. If you've seen Shrek at this point, the jokes weren't for kids. At least not.
God, that's so funny, because that makes me think about, part of the point of this podcast is like embracing your geekdom, but it's so true. Like when we grew up, cartoons were for kids.
Yeah.
So like there was that period in the 90s when I wouldn't go see an animated film in the theater without a kid with me.
And that's exactly what happened.
You'd be a weirdo if you were going to like.
Yes. Why are you here? This is a kid's movie. Like, no, Shrek was hysterical.
Like, I don't think anyone would care as much today, but yeah, in the 90s, and certainly when Shrek came out, you had to have a kid with you, or where's that creep?
Oh my God. Yeah, you were definitely eyeballed by the staff. Like, this is a guy. There's an adult over there by himself next to the kid. Like, what's going on over there?
But yeah, I agree that, so the message, I know we've been doing a lot of rants on this, but this is more of a plea. Go see a comedy in the theater. I mean, go to a movie in the theater. If you don't do that, and I know we talked about voting with our dollar, but also for the experience. I saw, it was weird, but last week I was in a theater outside of Boston and I saw Superman and it was packed, and it was such a different experience. Where Steve and I live in New Hampshire, we're small towns. Our theater, it doesn't get packed usually. We still go to it.
Not even on opening night.
But my God, it was weird to be. I had to sit close to the screen. It was like 3 seats back. It felt wrong to be that close to the screen. I haven't had to do that in so long, because I haven't been in a sold out theater before, or in a long time. But it was just the energy of that whole crowd. And that can happen again, but we got to actually go to the theater for that to happen. So that's our plea.
I'm going to add on to your plea. I'm going to say, get on whatever social media you got, gather up your friends, gather up your horde, go out to see the Naked Gun movie on opening night or opening weekend. Go with as many people as you can and fill a room, even if it's a small theater, fill a room full of people. Understand what it is like. As a comedian, I still get to see this sometimes in live stand-up shows, right? There's still plenty of shows I do where we have smaller crowds. I try to do my best for every crowd, but my favorite rooms are those rooms that are full, because the volume of laughter that comes back at me on stage is amazing. And when you're sitting in a room full of people all laughing at something and sharing this, and let's be honest, we don't have a lot of spaces where we share happy experiences, right? Even Marvel movies and DC and all the stuff that we love, those are positive for the most part, but there's usually some action and there's fighting. A comedy movie is literally just for the sake of making you feel better on the way out than you felt on the way in. So get a group of people, go see a comedy. If you don't like Naked Gun, find the next one that's coming up. Go see a comedy in the theater. All right. So with that, we're going to talk about some of our most favorite and not quite so favorite movies.
It's critical hits and epic fails.
All right, hit us.
Well, you're starting us off with a hit because I got the fail.
Okay. So here we go. This might be controversial because of all the stuff I could have chosen. I liked this, and this is sort of this crosses a couple of those categories, right? It is a reboot, but it also had a sequel already. And it is a reboot that had a reboot before it that didn't work. I loved, the Ghostbusters reboot, Paul Rudd, and I'll be honest with you, the kid from, one of the girls from, is this Stranger Things? I think is the younger actress, whose name is escaping me. But it did for me what I think the Jurassic World movies did, right? If you like the Jurassic World, which is not a comedy, but it had a reboot, but it brought all of those elements from the original movie. Happy Gilmore, same thing. It brought all of those elements, but in the Ghostbusters reboot, because I love the original Ghostbusters so much, some of the original characters come back. The storyline is a consistent storyline. The humor, Paul Rudd's great. He plays things very middle of the road. He's not over the top. He's not super deadpan. But I love that. And then Frozen Empire, I think, extended that, right? I don't think it was one of those, oh shit, they should have stopped at one. So that's my critical hit. Like, it falls into everything I said is maybe wrong, but because it's a nostalgia play, it's a reboot play, it's a big name play, but it worked in the theater, and that's why I dig it.
Nice. I agree. I love those Ghostbusters reboots. Actually, and I know not everyone did, but I actually really enjoyed the all-female Ghostbusters 2 with Melissa McCarthy. So I actually liked all those reboots. But I'm going to epic fails. And I don't want you to take this one personally because I think you might actually be an extra in this movie. It's the Pink Panther reboot with Steve Martin. Weren't you in it?
I am in that.
That's what I thought. So that's not why I chose it, though. I chose it because I love Steve Martin. Actually, in the 70s, my dad had the vinyls, and I would listen to his comedy albums all the time. Love Steve Martin. Love Pink Panther.
We didn't even talk about any of his movies.
This did not work. And I think it's because there's a certain kind of silliness to Steve Martin. Think about Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. He was the silly one, and Michael Caine was the serious one. And we've talked a little bit about how, like, in Airplane, Leslie Nielsen being really good with that serious, being the serious actor, saying this, the kind of comedic lines, but playing it serious. And Peter Sellers did that in the original Pink Panther. It really worked. I just don't think it worked for Steve Martin. It's not that I felt the movie was horrible. I enjoyed it, but I didn't care that it never got a sequel. Whereas, like, that's a fail when you're trying to reboot a franchise and you don't care if it gets a sequel.
Yeah.
So that, and what's interesting, talk about reboots, Eddie Murphy is just as breaking news. Maybe for some people, it was for me today. Eddie Murphy is going to be Inspector Clouseau in a Pink Panther reboot coming out, I think, next year. And
I hadn't heard that.
So could that work? It might. I don't know if he's any better at being the serious person, selling the comedic lines. But I'm willing to give it a chance. So I thought that was interesting. But my epic fail was the Pink Panther reboot because it did not successfully reboot the franchise.
No, and that's a good one, as sad as I am to say it, because they filmed that here in Boston. Yes, I was an extra. I had a very cool scene that completely got cut. There's a scene at the end of the movie. So I got to actually be in a scene with Steve Martin and all of the folks playing. Alfred Molina was there. So I was in this room with all these like big actors playing this goofy scene, and it was fun. You'll never see it, but that's okay. And so I was hopeful, but I think that's one of those movies. It had all the right elements, and it should have worked, but you're right, it didn't. It couldn't. For whatever reason, it didn't get that gestalt of being better than the sum of its parts. Every little element, if you said, this is what we're going to do, you'd go, all right, that should work. Steve Martin, that should work. He's funny. You know, they didn't let him be him. He was trying to be Peter Sellers.
Right.
And that's not.
He can't do it.
No, I
who
hope
he
for
is.
Eddie Murphy, they don't do that either.
Exactly. I feel like that's how it could work, is if they realize they can't be Peter Sellers, like, and just to make it a new character.
Yeah. And for the record,
I hope, because one thing that he did is he did the French accent. I just don't think it worked, and I know he's Inspector Clouseau. He's supposed to be French. I hope Eddie Murphy doesn't try the French accent. It just, I know it worked for Peter Sellers, but
they could have gone the Naked Gun route, which is what they're doing with Liam Neeson. Is he's the son of Frank Drebin,
which doesn't even make sense.
Which really doesn't. But I mean,
so awesome.
That one little change, as Steve Martin is the son of Inspector Clouseau, also Inspector Clouseau,
yes.
just as stupid and unaware of his surroundings, but as Steve Martin doing it, I think it would have been hysterical.
Yeah.
But they were trying to keep to the tropes of the originals, and it just didn't.
Yeah, that's true. Eddie Murphy as Inspector Clouseau's son would be perfect.
Yes.
It's absurd, and that's why it could work.
Well, that would definitely be interesting. All right. We're coming up to the end here, this is one of our longest ones. We're gonna get you guys a question for you here. Well, we're gonna ask you to ask us questions, but we're gonna ask you one first. This Ask an OG has really been OG asking you. And so get on one of our social medias, write us originalgeekpodcast@gmail.com. Send us some emails. Please like and subscribe on all the social medias. Get on YouTube, watch us, download us wherever you get your podcast. But I think we want to know right now, what was your favorite 80s, 90s movies? What was your pre-streaming favorite experience of a comedy movie in the theater? And as a bonus points, give me one of your favorite lines that you love to quote from a comedy.
Awesome. Love that.
We do have, I'm going to call it Geek News. It's not really. So go see Naked Gun in the theater. This is our Geek News. This is comedy news. It's coming up. Naked Gun within a week or two, I think, is coming out. Probably out by the time this is out. This might be our first perfect timing for a real world release. And then go on Netflix, watch Happy Gilmore 2. It was worth watching. It was fun. Yeah. But listen, especially as a comedian and as a Gen X old man, don't put down the old comedies. Don't just watch them on your phone. Don't just clip it and meme it. Just give comedy what it's worth and go to see it in the theater.
I agree. Go to the theater, folks. See a movie in the theater. That's our plea at the end of this episode.
All right. So.
And like and subscribe, of course.
Of course. Like, subscribe, click, heart, forward, share, download it 4 times. It helps our numbers. And check us out on originalgeekpodcast.com. We got some new merch up there. I'm going to start throwing new stuff every week or two. Try to put up a couple new designs. If you find something you want us to do, let me know. All right. Otherwise, we're out.